Hello, everybody. Welcome to 321 No Kiddin. Bobby the Awesome here. And I am joined today by Edina Mauvana. Hopefully I didn't do that wrong.
That's right.
And she's going to give us an education on Ascension and some spiritual work today. So please introduce yourself, Miss Edina.
Hi, Bobby. So nice to meet you. Thank you so much. Yes, my name is Edina Mauvana, and I'm a spirituality consultant. I'm creator and founder of the Unity Consciousness Collective and a creator of the hashtag Not That Kind of Muslim campaign on social media. So thank you so much. And I look forward to chatting today.
You know, you mentioned Muslim before we press record. So can I snoop a little? Like where are you from?
So my family is a mix. We were an immigrant family, and my father was originally born in Zagreb, Croatia, and my mom is from Canada. So I've been a kind of a mix here. But I actually technically embraced, or they call it like reverted or converted to Islam, actually back in 2003 when I was living in Egypt. Yeah.
Okay.
So, I embraced that religious tradition. And for a long time, I was also very, practicing a certain way, more conservative, as you would say. I wore the scarf and, covered everything for about 14 years in my marriage. And even my children went to, Islamic school up until last year. So, I'm in the Bay Area, California. So, yeah. Now, and then, I had my own kind of journeying after a, kind of ugly divorce and heartbreaks. And then I started, practicing my faith in a little bit different ways. There's a lot of mystical aspects of the faith and different, ways that people are practicing. And so, yeah, that's kind of me now. I'm kind of a mix of things all around. I call myself an intersectionality expert when it comes to, different, spiritual and religious traditions.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, you just had me curious, like you're not in an abaya and you're not, but you keep referencing it. So I just had to ask for my own clarification.
Right. Well, I started that hashtag, not that kind of Muslim, because, well, I had an article that I put out to the press called "Understanding the Andrew Tate Problem: Misogyny, Narcissism, and the Jinn." Understanding the Jinn, and that's kind of another area of my work. But Andrew Tate converted to Islam, like I think it was back in December, and so he has a certain social media presence with his, platforming on on what he's talking about with. Men can do this and women, if they do that, they're whores, so it's really, it gets into the nitty gritty. And there is a little bit of a buzz even within the Muslim circles. There's actually been some articles, not by me, but other people calling him out with the misogyny problem and platforming the religion with some of these kind of ego-based agendas. So he has some good things to say, but he also is, a little bit of a, misogynist, especially since he's in prison for sex trafficking. So
Gotcha.
Yeah. So not that kind of Muslim is kind of like, hey, people, we need to actually eliminate, our ego problems in this process of becoming spiritual, right?
It's so funny how much the ego comes up no matter what arena I speak to my guests on, whether it's spirituality or it's work things or therapy, whatever it is. Ego just it almost sounds like the enemy in so many contexts.
Right. Well, it's like ego is kind of our friend and our enemy. It's kind of like the manifestation of our personalities. A lot of that is ego, right? It's like we want to kind of keep it in check, but also, aware of its strengths and presence. So I think a lot of it is really a balancing, between like our ego getting out of control and then, kind of reeling it in and connecting back to like our heart center, right? So it's like the contrast between our hearts and our emotional center versus our logical, ego-based programming. So both are very important in the spiritual process, but a lot of it a lot of the things I read about are healing, afflictions of the heart, and really that becomes a big process when you start looking at your own ego.
Yes. Uh, so, Edina, I didn't really probably
Yeah.
do a good job of explaining kind of my foundation and my belief system when it comes to this show and my recovery.
Yeah.
So, a big part of what I believe is everybody recovers different, and we're all entitled to like a beautiful, amazing life. So, part of why you're here is something I don't know, and probably that my audience doesn't know, that could be used as part of their recovery process. At least that's the way I understand it. We're going to dive into that. So, the word that you use is ascension. And I want to start off by if you can explain what ascension is, that might be the best place to start. And then we can dive in a little deeper.
Right. Well, this thing with Ascension. So I'm not sure if your listeners or viewers are noticing things about this on social media. I'm certainly on Instagram all the time, and I'm scrolling. And about a year ago, I started really seeing, messaging around Ascension conferences. I attended a Together We Ascend summit, and I have friends who are writing, books around, now you're ascending, now what? And I got curious about what this ascension really means. And I went to some of the, quantum kind of energy healers that I was starting to talk to at the time. And, I learned it as kind of best described as kind of where we are right now on the earth. Everything is like is vibrating faster. This is all depending on like some of the astrology stuff, but it's sort of like everything this time is now moving into a all of our consciousness, whether we like it or not. We're on this planet and things are vibrating faster in this kind of ascension process of increasing vibrational energy frequency. So much like the law of attraction, where we're trying to I don't know if a lot of people, most of us have heard of the law of attraction, right? And the principle behind that is you want to increase your vibrational frequency so that you can attract things at that vibe level, like your ideal car and your ideal house and spouse and all this stuff, right? You're going to vibrate there at this higher frequency. And, that's the principle behind the law of attraction. So it's the same thing with what I'm calling law of ascension, where, we are, having to vibrate higher. In this process, we're getting rid of lower density problems, lower energy, negative energy bodies. This is where, we start to talk about like ego fixing problems that are creating more, like our trauma, where those things need to be healed, the patterns, generational trauma, our own things. And so, this is the process of ascension right now in the here and now with where the universe is. There's a lot going on planetarily with Pluto coming into alignment, age of Aquarius, there's all these things, right? And people are even talking about ascension symptoms. So like physical, manifestations of this process. Sometimes, you have stomach issues, we get, skin issues, we get headaches, things like that are happening just because of the massive amounts of like photonic light energy that is coming at us from the universe right now. And so this is the best way that I can describe it, is the process of basically increasing into these frequencies. Does that make sense?
I think it does, but that's a lot. So ascension,
that's a lot. Yeah.
So kind of simplifying from the beginning is it's based on the belief that we're all vibrating.
We're all energy. Yeah. We're all
okay.
like humans are, when we start talking about everything is energy, right? In the whole universe. And we're kind of like these little energy, little needles, like acupuncture needles on the earth, like humans. And, we're lights, and we're trying to, absorb more light and get rid of the dark. That's kind of, we want to all be increasing that vibration. So, yeah.
Okay. And if I understand vibration right, things like love make you vibrate higher, and
Right.
things like fear make you vibrate lower.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
There's that
All
whole
right.
spectrum, like love, gratitude, abundance, and then fear and, yeah, lower problems. So yeah,
So
you
are
want to.
people consciously ascending, or is it a byproduct of their life and then they're finding out that it's ascension?
I think I think it could be both. Because I think a lot of times people might see stuff about ascension and it will resonate with them, like, oh, this makes sense. Especially like me now, my social media is bombarded by it. It's all like, it doesn't matter what faith or tradition you're from. It's an awareness. So like even Christians, for example, right now a lot of the conversations in that area is about like the Christ consciousness energy. So, this concept around, Christ coming back and stuff, it's all symbolic about energy right now. Like Christ consciousness energy is coming back. And so this is the real process. So there's people in different groups who are talking about, the ways in which, we're coming into these kind of end of days times, whatever that may or may not mean. Like people are talking about, well, that, what does this mean to go into like new earth? Like, are we getting rid of the older? We're not. We're actually just increasing the frequencies of all of it, and then so it's happening, whether we're aware of it or not. And then some people with their spiritual tradition will be like, yeah, this makes sense to me. This is happening. And, you look at the stars and you hear some of the astrology stuff, and then it resonates more and more with you. It could be that, or it could be like someone like, hey, I've learned of the law of attraction. Now I want to understand what ascension is. Like I want to be ascending just like everyone else. I want to make sure, that when I go through my manifestation, like for me, it's like law of attraction. You can focus on attracting, materialistic things like the house and the car and the, maybe the ideal spouse, but you have to resonate at a certain frequency. But in that process, you have to come back to your heart awareness, and sometimes that means like God consciousness. You have to have certain elements of having maybe a balance with your religion or your tradition, so it could happen either way, depending on what people are really looking to get to.
So can an atheist ascend?
Yeah, I would make the argument. Yeah, definitely. Because if you're a well-balanced person and atheist is kind of a broad label, right? You have people who are very like hostily atheist, and maybe they
Right.
have a lot of anger and, negative energy problems there. And yeah, they would be in the bucket of probably, having those challenges of not ascending if they don't heal through some of that stuff. But I would say, people who are like believing in like, we're all connected, our consciousness and source energy is, another word for all of these things, which are God, it's like there's definitely, ways in which we come to balance with like energy and who we are and what we're here to do. And this like unity consciousness concept is what I would say, would be like, you don't have to have a specific religious label, or you could, it can be
Okay.
anything, right? Yeah, it's happening to the earth and all of its inhabitants.
Thank you for that clarity.
Yeah.
So why would someone who is trying to give up an addiction or has given up an addiction, what's in it for them? Like, why would they want to ascend? Why would they want to learn more about it?
Right. Well, yeah, addiction is something, if you're trauma aware, if you start to go into that world where you understand maybe what caused your addiction problems, and you're healing through that, and you see the light at the end of the tunnel. I believe that is all part of the same process. You already are, in your ascension journey. Just like you're in your law of attraction journey, you're going to start to see those improvements. So people can focus on this now with some intention, like, I want to understand and go through ascension and increase the vibrational frequency. So I believe that once you are, become trauma aware, healing your wounds, healing your, codependencies, your, dependencies on addiction, and then you become, a lot of people do become more spiritual in that process, in their healing journey. So this is just another way to really tap into the power of that's happening, in the here and now with all the universe forces going on. This is the biggest, what do they say? It's the biggest global consciousness awakening that humanity has ever seen. That's what we're entering into with like this age of Aquarius and all kinds of things. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of my spirituality came through the 12-step process, right? So there's a step 11 is sought through prayer and meditation to improve your conscious contact with God as you understand him. And if you do the work on the step, or at least that was my journey, whether it was church or meditation or investigative stuff, that's kind of what helped me find my spirituality. So I like that, since I'm not saying that every person has to do 12-step, I like that this is a different flavor to maybe go on that path of exploring. That's what I think I heard from you.
Yeah.
So what does it look like? You mentioned trauma a few times. So what does it look like when you're working with a client? The end result is you're trying to help them ascend, or you're trying to help them understand ascension?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I am doing consulting services for me, I am not doing necessarily the actual coaching through the whole process. So I am referring people based on their, particular background, interests, religious, spiritual tradition, or lack thereof, I refer them to people in my Unity Consciousness Collective network. So I have a network of just different types of healers, coaches, different practitioners of all kinds of different modalities. We got quantum healers. So depending on what that person really needs is then when they can get referred and even do body work. A lot of people really benefit more from like hands-on, there's massage, there's Ayurvedic practices. There's all kinds of things that can clear out our, nervous system and somatic healing. There's all kinds of things. And you mentioned like step 11, which is meditation. So daily meditative practices is like always the root of it. And, coming from a Muslim background, it's like we got the 5 daily prayers, and it's like sometimes, especially when I was practicing, before, it's very, you kind of get into a mechanical state. You don't really, sometimes those prayers they feel more like a burden and a hindrance if you're not really, doing them. And so I just tell people that whatever daily practice that they feel like that resonates with them and that they're inclined to do, stick with that. Like you don't have to pray a certain way or, meditate a certain way. You can even, like for me, I even make my meditation sometimes. I like to take hot showers for a long time, so, I find that that's the best, meditative state. Like for me, even driving long distances, I like to kind of, my mind is just like, I feel like that brings me into meditative states. So, cause I'm one of those people where it's very hard for me to like sit still, so I have a lot of resistance to that. So like, just uplifting your spirit, like in ways which are nice for you. Some people will listen to music and things that uplift, like love, gratitude, bringing us back into those higher frequencies. Yeah. So daily practices on that. So I talk to people about, if they want to understand this process, this is where it's rooted, and this is where we can go with it.
In your information, it says that you can speak to 5 reasons to work with a spirituality consultant for personal growth and ascension awareness. So what are some of the reasons someone would want to do this?
Right. Well, it's great for, kind of like how you would go for, people go to like different coaches. If you're in a process where, you want to work with someone and understand these things more, rather than just, like some people don't know where to go or what to do. So, they can reach out to me or people who do this work and find out like where is, in a comfortable environment. Like a lot of people who are religious, for example, like me, maybe in the Muslim community, people are not so much going to their sheikh or their imam, or their pastor at the church, or whatever. You don't really go to that person, for a better understanding and a deepening of your healing journey. So spirituality consulting is great, especially in my area where I know like there's a lot of Muslims who have problems with things that they are like, they think they got black magic, they've got, evil eye, which is like, people who they're worried about these things, or they have jinn problems, which are like negative energies or entity problems, so this is a very safe place. And also people who are, have different ways that they do or don't practice. Like there's a lot of people in the trans community that are not accepted in their religious circles, things like that, where it's like you want to have a way of practicing and doing something spiritual, but you want it in a safe environment. You want to know where to go and what you're doing and why you're doing it, and then it makes sense for you. So that is really, I think, the main reason. And then the other reasons are just, mental, physical, spiritual, and, understanding certain concepts that, people aren't really talking about, like even what is ascension, what is having a jinn problem, so people are curious about these things and they don't know where to go. So that's really where my services come in.
I'm trying to, so I feel like I talk to a lot of people, whether I'm traveling or on the show or customers, whatever that looks like. And I'm not completely surprised, but I don't understand how I didn't know what ascension was or this jinn problem.
Oh yeah, you're not alone. This is relatively new. Yeah.
Okay.
Newly being discussed. Yeah, like ascension started, like I said, I started seeing it on my social media, and it was like a year ago. And you start seeing people talk about ascension symptoms. So like we have like physical things that we can go through with symptoms of, headaches, migraines, and like digestive issues, skin issues, and then just this feeling like even like time is speeding up, and things are going faster, and we're having all these stress and anxieties. These are all kind of symptoms of what the whole earth is going through as it's vibrating, faster at a higher frequency. And we as energy are being affected by this vibration. Like if something's, vibrating faster, it's gonna get rid of a lot of the muck, a lot of the lower density. So, there's like conferences going on and books being written. So, I have my new book coming out, which is called Ascension is the New Attraction. So kind of like law of attraction. Now we're moving into understanding this concept of, like law of ascension and where things are right now in the universe, with the current situation with the awakening.
I lost my train of thought. I was reading and so patient. And I lost it. Oh, okay. So how do people know? You describe some physical symptoms and stuff, but you're someone who never even heard the word. Yeah. How do you know that this is something that might be worth investigating? Like, what are the clues for someone to look in the mirror and be like, okay, I should probably go explore ascension?
Right. Well, I think the first thing is if you were to just Google like ascension symptoms, I mean, there's lots of people with like 80 ways in which we're going, like ascension symptoms are affecting you. There's a lot of these kinds of things out there. So, my first my first suggestion would be just go explore, go to Google and start finding out what you hear about it. That's what I did. And then I started following different people talking about it. And, this was very interesting to me. And it really resonated in a way where it's like, it's not specific to like a certain religious tradition. It's not like, oh, this is what the Muslims are talking about now, or the Christians. It's very much like, even the new age woo woo people are like, well, this stuff is, it's not just that. It's like, it's kind of like you look into it and it's happening. And I think everyone will find something that really, clicks in, like, oh, this is interesting, whether it's like, religious people believing in things around the end of the day, end of days, the apocalypse. What does that even mean? Well, that's all explained by people talking about this ascension process, moving into this scary time where, what does it mean that the end of the world as we know it, or moving into like getting rid of the old earth and moving into new earth. This is all related because people are talking about like our three-dimensional reality. Like we're 3D world and now we're moving into like 5D world. Well, what does that even mean? It's like, I don't know if that's something you've heard, but like, there's like this is kind of the same process. So anyone who's like, even talking about like how we're in a matrix and this is all like a video game and we're all, this is like, this is definitely this whole world of people talking about it. So, that really is where it's at. It also is, people talk about, connections to the extraterrestrials, waiting for us to go through this process so that we can be at a point where, we make contact, like all kinds of things they're talking about with this ascension process. Yeah. So I'm bringing it down to the real world, daily practices, meditating, raising your vibrational frequency. Really, this is what's happening. And, if you want to get rid of these problems, then this is where we have to heal, and go with our journey. So,
yeah. Do you have any tangible results of how this has impacted your life? Like what's different with you personally?
Yeah, me personally. Well, I spent a decade in, corporate enterprise software sales. And, I had, like I said, a traumatic divorce, lots of heartbreak, lots of trauma. Like I realized I had to go on my own, personal healing journey in this process. And, that's where I became very aware of like ego problems and my blockages. Really, like I would call it like a lack of empathy, where we really need to work on our egos and create a deeper sense of empathy and for ourselves, starting with self-love and healing that way. And then we bring that into all of our relationships. And, so I became a better parent. I definitely have, my kids are 11 years old and 8 years old. So it's been a whole, decade of this journeying now. And, we heal for our children and then we heal for our partner, we heal for ourselves first. And then we realize how that impacts our parenting and our, partnerships. Everything starts with interpersonal relationships, like that's really where the mirror work and the patterning work starts to happen. And so for me, like people have told me I'm like a different person. I used to be not very empathetic. Like I had probably a little bit of an ego based, blockage in my awareness of others. I definitely had like not the greatest emotional intelligence. And, so I was operating that way and in these more negative energy frequencies. And now, I have a lot of, it's like you go into law of attraction, you start to attract more things. Like, this is great, And so for me personally, that's been my journey. And then I actually have, left my, corporate job. And, now I'm pursuing really my heart passion in this work. People can pursue the things that they really love. Like in my case, it's this spirituality related topics, so, and it can create a better life that we really want to live. We kind of step into that, best and highest version of ourselves in this process. So that was my experience with it.
Wow. That's fabulous.
Thank you.
Edina, is there anything that I'm not asking specifically that's important for my audience to know?
Um, just this journey begins with self-love. I think that's the most, we all want to learn how to tap into the powers of the universe through unconditional love of, first ourselves, and like really getting rid of, not getting rid of like annihilating all of our ego problems. We started talking about that. Like we want to integrate those in a healthy way. We want to love every version of ourselves on every plane of existence, on every spectrum of energy. It's like you start with that, and that's the beginning of the healing journey. And I believe that this really is true, and it resonates, I think, with all of humanity. Really that important process. It's like mandatory. We have to heal the generational traumas in all, like we all have messed up crazy lives. We've all been like eons of being in this dark energy. That's what the ascension is. It's like now we're getting rid of that and we're moving into like better frequency, better world, better life we want to build and create for ourselves, for the future of humanity, for our children. And yeah, that it's like it's a big topic. It is when you really like look back, you're like, wow, is this, it's not only happening, it's kind of mandatory, and it also has to do with every single human on earth. So it's a big deal. And but the good news is it starts with something really easy, like just tapping into more love and getting rid of the hate and the fear and the guilt and shame based programmings that a lot of times we're programmed at a young age, either with religion or from our parents or from their struggles of lack and having to make it in this world. We took on all that. Now we have to do something better with it.
You just prompted a thought.
Yeah.
If ascension is going on, so in my lifetime, now I get it, there's wars and there's been history, right? But in this lifetime, I'm going to sneeze.
Oh,
I thought I was going to sneeze.
You.
Oh, I think I yawned it away.
Okay.
That's a thing. It seemed, so if it's about raising the vibration higher towards love, then I guess what I'm trying to understand is the world seems very divided, angry, hateful,
Right.
prejudice, entitled. Like there's a lot of things going on that don't sound like very high vibrational words.
Yeah.
So do the two things have to do with each other? Will we see, like, do you anticipate we're going to see improvement? I think you understand the question, right?
I do. It's like, why do we see so much ugliness if this is the case? Like, and it is, I've heard it described like, okay, yeah, the negative energy has to be released in this process. Like even, people who go through trauma healing, it's like, that you have to like release the negative emotions. Like sometimes you have to scream at that person, or you have to let it out, and then it has to integrate back in. So on a global scale, I mean, this is happening. I mean, political structures are going to be toppled. I mean, things are, this is where people go through, like the whole system needs to be transformed. I've heard it described like, a sponge with like dirty water, right? And it's like, you have to squeeze it all out. It's got to go for the new water to come in, right? So we are in this squeeze. We're in the squeeze of the universe. Like we're in the most massive squeeze. And it will be I think, for the next 2 years is what I'm hearing, like a very massive upheavals are going to happen. This is the squeezing of that ugly, nasty people who just, right. They gotta, and so it's like, in order for the light to come in and really bring us there. So we will be seeing a lot of turmoil in the world, like to the degree to which the religious traditions have written about the end of days. Like this is what I do believe we're facing. So, but we will get through it into this, higher vibrational process. So that's my personal belief. I mean, every spiritual person will tell you something different, so
Right.
I think there's enough commonality there where we resonate at like this is occurring, certainly me as a Muslim, I've heard a lot about the end of days, time speeding up, crazy things happening that are now signs of, this is all occurring. And so people who are religious are all freaking out. But they don't have to, necessarily, right? If we look at it in this positive way and have a deeper understanding, that's also not exclusive to our own religious. Like, it's like, oh, my religion is going to be the best because we're the true believers. This has got to go. It's got to go. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
And I guess here's a question that I don't know the answer to. I have suspicion for my own personal life, and I'm not sure if you feel this way. So you were in a corporate America. You had, we'll call it a normal life, right? Like the marriage, the kids, all of those things. But I feel like, and I don't know if this is because of Ascension or because of how I choose to live my life, but whether it's a business coach, a yoga, whatever the gamut is, it feels like everybody in my world is talking about vibration and talking about energy and talking about all that. So I've asked other guests this, like, is it because more people are becoming aware and participating, or is it because I'm attracting those kind of people in my life?
It's definitely both, because you're vibrating at that frequency where that'll be of interest. Like, it's really interesting to me in my own life. Like, some people, they don't want to hear it. Like, it's like they don't resonate with it at all. And it's like, you can't really force someone to be interested in it. Like, you don't even want to be in that position. So people become naturally more interested, I think, because of the awareness that this is happening. Like, I do believe in the next year or two, there's going to be major events, which people are all going to have to realize, like, oh, we need to really be talking about this, like, I am launching my podcast next month. So I'm going to be interviewing all kinds of different people who are into this subject. So, the awareness is increasing, and yeah, you probably are attracting more because it is so fascinating. And it is, a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm not interested in that religious or spirituality stuff. They gotta, you get away with that. But then now this is really pressing, like it becomes a pressing matter on a global scale. And then I think that's where we are right now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Mrs. Edina, it's been a pleasure having you here. Is there anything I forgot that you need to mention before we wrap up?
No, just people who are interested, they can follow me on social media. My Instagram is the best. I'm at Edina Mauvana, and I have the new book coming up. I'm hoping to release in May. So stay tuned, and definitely, follow the trend and get on the Ascension journey.
There we go. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It was great having you here.
Thank you so much, Bobby.